Hello, welcome to American Update. It's Monday, February 1st, 2021. Hard to believe already 1 month has gone by. I'm Edgar Montoya. Recently, just a few days ago, I started sharing a series I'd like to share, I'd like to work on American quotes. It'll be by other people too, non-Americans, but especially mostly by Americans. And the other day I spoke on some quotes by John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Today I'd like to share one from our great president, former president, from some years back now, Ronald Reagan. He spoke on the subject of freedom, and the quote goes like this: "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed down to them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free." And that is so true that we do take freedom for granted. We must always fight for it. When you think about it in the concept, the idea of history, from the point of history, there's never been a nation, a great nation, a dynasty, what you choose to call it, good or evil, that has really lasted forever. The great Roman Empire, which seemed like it would last forever, probably people at that time did. You couldn't see it fall. It crashed, it broke down, it fell from within, and it was defeated from within, from forces from within. And I mention that because it's important to my point today, that it deteriorated, the Roman Empire, from within. We cannot take these freedoms for granted. A nation of now, we are not even 250 years old. Be a shock to think that maybe now, as a lot of people may think and feel it's in the air, the United States is over as a nation. That may be exaggeration, that may be hyperbole, but it remains to be seen, because we're faced in difficult times with this new administration that's taken over. Even in the vocabulary, if I mention the vocabulary for a moment, the words have been spoken, the words in the air. Some years ago, we talked about liberalism, about liberals, and progressivism. And those words have given way to such words are being whispered. It's just socialism and communism. Only those words are not really quite whispered anymore. They're being proclaimed very loudly, though not by the left. The left will never tell you that they are socialists, that they are communists. But as one Cuban-American man who spoke at the Republican National Convention last year, stated about what the left was espousing, about what they have been presenting, about their aims. He said, what the Democrats are supporting, what they're speaking about, is not frightening to me. It's familiar. He lived it, and he escaped it as a young man. And you can imagine, for those who have come from such nations that were bastions of socialism and communism, to think that one day in the United States, he would have to face it down. Only he said, as he said in his speech, where do you go from here? As Reagan said it once too, we are freedom's last stand. Where do you go if we lose it here? Freedom has to be fought for and protected. And through the decades, through the years in American history, we have fought from the Revolutionary War to the World Wars, to the Cold War against the old Soviet Union, to our fight against terrorism, which hit home and began about 9/11. We fought against terrorism before that, but it hit home for real on that day, on that great dread day. We have fought against Islamic terrorism, radicalism, against state-sponsored terrorism, and we have fought the good fight against the forces of communism, radicalism, socialism, against the Nazis. But little did we know that within our schools, in this nation, within our schools, our children in a stealth manner were being indoctrinated. We never woke up. We didn't wake up. In the universities, and dare I say at the elementary school level even, what were our children being taught in their social studies, in their history books? What were they being taught about America? that we were something less than that great nation we have held it to be, that we were not that bastion of freedom, that we were not that, as Reagan liked to call it, that shining city on a hill, that we were something less than the parts. When, in a day like today, when, in these times, when a novel like 1984 is the best-selling novel of the day, and 1984, in case you don't know, I think most people, they know about this novel, in America anyways, standard reading in our high schools, was George Orwell's dystopian, was his novel, horrific novel of a dystopian world where you did not have freedom of speech anymore, did not even have freedom of thought. And there are forces fighting against the freedom of our speech today, against our freedom of thinking, and trying to shut us out. Was President Reagan right, saying that one day we will talk about the United States where men were free? And when we talk to our children and grandchildren one day, years from now, will we be talking to them about maybe the last two presidents, the great presidents we had, who were our last two true standard bearers for freedom, President Ronald Reagan and President Donald Trump? Will they be the last, truly the last standard bearers of our freedom? We hope that freedom stands in America forever, but it's something we can never take for granted.